This audiobook is brought to you by Agenvard 1998. Maslow's view of motivation. Maslow's theory of personality rests on several basic assumptions regarding motivation. First, Maslow adopted a holistic approach to motivation, that is, the whole person, not any single part or function, is motivated. Second, motivation is usually complex, meaning that a person's behavior may spring from several separate motives. For example, the desire for sexual union may be motivated not only by a genital need but also by needs for dominance, companionship, love, and self-esteem. Moreover, the motivation for a behavior may be unconscious or unknown to the person. For example, the motivation for a college student to make a high grade may mask the need for dominance or power. Maslow's acceptance of the importance of unconscious motivation represents one important way in which he differed from Gordon Allport. Whereas Allport might say that a person plays golf just for the fun of it, Maslow would look beneath the surface for underlying and often complex reasons for playing golf. A third assumption is that people are continually motivated by one need or another. When one need is satisfied, it ordinarily loses its motivational power and is then replaced by another need. For example, as long as people's hunger needs are frustrated, they will strive for food, but when they do have enough to eat, they move on to other needs such as safety, friendship, and self-worth. Another assumption is that all people everywhere are motivated by the same basic needs. The manner in which people in different cultures obtain food, build shelters, express friendship, and so forth may vary widely, but the fundamental needs for food, safety, and friendship are common to the entire species. A final assumption concerning motivation is that needs can be arranged on a hierarchy. Hierarchy of needs. Maslow's hierarchy of needs concept assumes that lower-level needs must be satisfied or at least relatively satisfied before higher-level needs become motivators. The 5 needs composing this hierarchy are conative needs, meaning that they have a striving or motivational character. These needs, which Maslow often referred to as basic needs, can be arranged on a hierarchy or staircase, with each ascending step representing a higher need but one less basic to survival. Lower-level needs have prepotency over higher-level need, that is, they must be satisfied or mostly satisfied before higher-level needs become activated. For example, anyone motivated by esteem or self-actualization must have previously satisfied needs for food and safety. Hunger and safety, therefore, have prepotency over both esteem and self-actualization. Maslow listed the following needs in order of their prepotency: physiological, safety, love and belongingness, esteem, and self-actualization. Physiological needs. The most basic needs of any person are physiological needs, including food, water, oxygen, maintenance of body temperature, and so on. Physiological needs are the most prepotent of all. Perpetually hungry people are motivated to eat not to make friends or gain self-esteem. They do not see beyond food, and as long as this need remains unsatisfied, their primary motivation is to obtain something to eat. In affluent societies, most people satisfy their hunger needs as a matter of course. They usually have enough to eat, so when they say they are hungry, they are really speaking of appetites, not hunger. A truly hungry person will not be overly particular about taste, smell, temperature, or texture of the food. Maslow said, "It is quite true that man lives by bread alone when there is no bread." When people do not have their physiological needs satisfied, they live primarily for those needs and strive constantly to satisfy them. Starving people become preoccupied with food and are willing to do nearly anything to obtain it. Physiological needs differ from other needs in at least 2 important respects. First, they are the only needs that can be completely satisfied or even overly satisfied. People can get enough to eat so that food completely loses its motivational power. For someone who has just finished a large meal, the thought of more food can even have a nauseating effect. A second characteristic peculiar to physiological needs is their recurring nature. After people have eaten, they will eventually become hungry again. They constantly need to replenish their food and water supply, and one breath of air must be followed by another. Other level needs, however, do not constantly recur. For example, people who have at least partially satisfied their love and esteem needs will remain confident that they can continue to satisfy their love and esteem need. Safety needs. When people have partially satisfied their physiological needs, they become motivated by safety needs, including physical security, stability, dependency, protection, and freedom from threatening forces such as war, terrorism, illness, fear, anxiety, danger, chaos, and natural disasters. The needs for law, order, and structure are also safety needs. Safety needs differ from physiological needs in that they cannot be overly satiated. People can never be completely protected from meteorites, fires, floods, or the dangerous acts of others. In societies not at war, most healthy adults satisfy their safety needs most of the time, thus making these needs relatively unimportant. Children, however, are more often motivated by safety needs because they live with such threats as darkness, animals, strangers, and punishments from parents. Also, some adults also feel relatively unsafe because they retain irrational fears from childhood that cause them to act as if they were afraid of parental punishment. They spend far more energy than do healthy people trying to satisfy safety needs, and when they are not successful in their attempts, they suffer from what Maslow called basic anxiety. Love and belongingness. Needs. After people partially satisfy their physiological and safety needs, they become motivated by love and belongingness needs, such as the desire for friendship, the wish for a mate and children, the need to belong to a family, a club, a neighborhood. Or in addition to physiological and safety needs, children have love and belongingness needs. Love and belongingness also include some aspects of sex and human contact as well as the need to both give and receive love. People who have had their love and belongingness needs adequately satisfied from early years do not panic when denied love. These people have confidence that they are accepted by those who are important to them, so when other people reject them, they do not feel devastated. A second group of people consists of those who have never experienced love and belongingness, and therefore, they are incapable of giving love. They have seldom or never been hugged, or cuddled, nor experienced any form of verbal love. Maslow believed that these people will eventually learn to devalue love and to take its absence for granted. A third category includes those people who have received love and belongingness only in small doses. Because they receive only a taste of love and belongingness, they will be strongly motivated to seek it. In other words, people who have received only a little amount of love have stronger needs for affection and acceptance than do people who have received either a healthy amount of love or no love at all. Children need love in order to grow psychologically, and their attempts to satisfy this need are usually straightforward and direct. Adults, too, need love, but their attempts to attain it are sometimes cleverly disguised. These adults often engage in self-defeating behaviors, such as pretending to be aloof from other people or adopting a cynical, cold, and calloused manner in their interpersonal relationships. They may give the appearance of self-sufficiency and independence, but in reality they have a strong need to be accepted and loved by other people. Other adults whose love needs remain largely unsatisfied adopt more obvious ways of trying to satisfy them, but they undermine their own success by striving too hard. Their constant supplications for acceptance and affection leave others suspicious, unfriendly, and impenetrable. Esteem needs. To the extent that people satisfy their love and belongingness needs, they are free to pursue esteem needs, which include self-respect, confidence, competence, and the knowledge that others hold them in high esteem. Maslow identified two levels of esteem needs: reputation and self-esteem. Reputation is the perception of the prestige, recognition, or fame a person has achieved in the eyes of others, whereas self-esteem is a person's own feelings of worth and confidence. Self-esteem is based on more than reputation or prestige. It reflects a desire for strength, for achievement, for adequacy, for mastery and competence, for confidence in the face of the world, and for independence and freedom. In other words, self-esteem is based on real competence and not merely on others' opinions. Once people meet their esteem needs, they stand on the threshold of self-actualization, the highest need recognized by Maslow. Self-actualization needs. When lower-level needs are satisfied, people proceed more or less automatically to the next level. However, once esteem needs are met, they do not always move to the level of self-actualization. Originally, Maslow assumed that self-actualization needs become potent whenever esteem needs have been met. However, during the 1960s, he realized that many of the young students at Brandeis and other campuses around the country had all their lower needs gratified, including reputation and self-esteem, and yet they did not become self-actualizing. Why some people step over the threshold from esteem to self-actualization and others do not is a matter of whether or not they embrace the B values. B values will be discussed in the section titled Self-Actualization. People who highly respect such values as truth, beauty, justice, and the other B values become self-actualizing after their esteem needs are met. Whereas people who do not embrace these values are frustrated in their self-actualization needs even though they have satisfied each of their other basic needs. Self-actualization, although not necessarily artistic, self-actualizers are creative in their needs include self-own ways, include self-fulfillment, the realization of all one's potential, and a desire to become creative in the full sense of the word. People who have reached the level of self-actualization become fully human, satisfying needs that others merely glimpse or never view at all. They are natural in the same sense that animals and infants are natural, that is, they express their basic human needs and do not allow them to be suppressed by culture. Self-actualizing people maintain their feelings of self-esteem even when scorned, rejected, and dismissed by other people. In other words, self-actualizers are not dependent on the satisfaction of either love or esteem needs, they become independent from the lower-level needs that gave them birth. We present a more complete sketch of self-actualizing people in the section titled Self-Actualization. In addition to these 5 conative needs, Maslow identified 3 other categories of needs: aesthetic, cognitive, and neurotic. The satisfaction of aesthetic and cognitive needs is consistent with psychological health, whereas the deprivation of these 2 needs results in pathology. Neurotic needs, however, lead to pathology whether or not they are satisfied. Aesthetic needs. Unlike conative needs, aesthetic needs are not universal, but at least some people in every culture seem to be motivated by the need for beauty and aesthetically pleasing experiences. From the days of the cave dwellers down to the present time, some people have produced art for art's sake. People with strong aesthetic needs desire beautiful and orderly surroundings. And when these needs are not met, they become sick in the same way that they become sick when their conative needs are frustrated. People prefer beauty to ugliness, and they may even become physically and spiritually ill when forced to live in squalid, disorderly environments. Cognitive needs. Most people have a desire to know, to solve mysteries, to understand, and to be curious. Maslow called these desires cognitive needs. When cognitive needs are blocked, all needs on Maslow's hierarchy are threatened, that is, knowledge is necessary to satisfy each of the 5 conative needs. People can gratify their physiological needs by knowing how to secure food, safety needs by knowing how to build a shelter, love needs by knowing how to relate to people, esteem needs by knowing how to acquire some level of self-confidence, and self-actualization by fully using their cognitive potential. Maslow believed that healthy people desire to know more, to theorize, to test hypotheses, to uncover mysteries, or to find out how something works just for the satisfaction of knowing. However, people who have not satisfied their cognitive needs, who have been consistently lied to, had their curiosity stifled, or have been denied information, become pathological, a pathology that takes the form of skepticism, disillusionment, and cynicism. Neurotic needs. The satisfaction of conative, aesthetic, and cognitive needs is basic to one's physical and psychological health, and their frustration leads to some level of illness. However, neurotic needs lead only to stagnation and pathology. By definition, neurotic needs are non-productive. They perpetuate an unhealthy style of life and have no value in the striving for self-actualization. Neurotic needs are usually reactive, that is, they serve as compensation for unsatisfied basic needs. For example, a person who does not satisfy safety needs may develop a strong desire to hoard money or property. The hoarding drive is a neurotic need that leads to pathology whether or not it is satisfied. Similarly, a neurotic person may be able to establish a close relationship with another person, but that relationship may be a neurotic, symbiotic one that leads to a pathological relationship rather than genuine love. Maslow presented yet another example of a neurotic need. A person strongly motivated by power can acquire nearly unlimited power, but that does not make the person less neurotic or less demanding of additional power. It makes little difference for ultimate health whether a neurotic need be gratified or frustrated. General discussion of needs. Maslow estimated that the hypothetical average person has his or her needs satisfied to approximately these levels: physiological, 85%, safety, 70%, love and belongingness, 50%, esteem, 40%, and self-actualization, 10%. The more a lower level need is satisfied, the greater the emergence of the next level need. For example, if love needs are only 10% satisfied, then esteem needs may not be active at all. But if love needs are 25% satisfied, then esteem may emerge 5% as a need. If love is 75% satisfied, then esteem may emerge 50%, and so on. Needs, therefore, emerge gradually, and a person may be simultaneously motivated by needs from two or more levels. For example, a self-actualizing person may be the honorary guest at a dinner given by close friends in a peaceful restaurant. The act of eating gratifies a physiological need, but at the same time, the guest of honor may be satisfying safety, love, esteem, and self-actualization needs. Reversed order of needs. Even though needs are generally satisfied in the hierarchical order, occasionally they are reversed. For some people, the drive for creativity, a self-actualization need, may take precedence over safety and physiological needs. An enthusiastic artist may risk safety and health to complete an important work. For years, the late sculptor Korczak Ziolkowski endangered his health and abandoned companionship to work on carving a mountain in the Black Hills into a monument to Chief Crazy Horse. Reversals, however, are usually more apparent than real, and some seemingly obvious deviations in the order of needs are not variations at all. If we understood the unconscious motivation underlying the behavior, we would recognize that the needs are not reversed. Unmotivated behavior. Maslow believed that even though all behaviors have a cause, some behaviors are not motivated. In other words, not all determinants are motives. Some behavior is not caused by needs but by other factors such as conditioned reflexes, maturation, or drugs. Motivation is limited to the striving for the satisfaction of some need. Much of what Maslow called expressive behavior is unmotivated. Expressive and coping behavior. Maslow distinguished between expressive behavior, which is often unmotivated, and coping behavior, which is always motivated and aimed at satisfying a need. Expressive behavior is often an end in itself and serves no other purpose than to be. It is frequently unconscious and usually takes place naturally and with little effort. It has no goals or aim but is merely the person's mode of expression. Expressive behavior includes such actions as slouching, looking stupid, being relaxed, showing anger, and expressing joy. Expressive behavior can continue even in the absence of reinforcement or reward. For example, a frown, a blush, or a twinkle of the eye are not ordinarily specifically reinforced. Expressive behaviors also include one's gait, gestures, voice, and smile, even when alone. A person, for example, may express a methodical, compulsive personality simply because she is what she is and not because of any need to do so. Other examples of expression include art, play, enjoyment, appreciation, wonder, awe, and excitement. Expressive behavior is usually unlearned, spontaneous, and determined by forces within the person rather than by the environment. On the other hand, coping behavior is ordinarily conscious, effortful, learned, and determined by the external environment. It involves the individual's attempts to cope with the environment, to secure food and shelter, to make friends, and to receive acceptance, appreciation, and prestige from others. Coping behavior serves some aim or goal, although not always conscious or known to the person, and it is always motivated by some deficit need. Deprivation of needs. Lack of satisfaction of any of the basic needs leads to some kind of pathology. Deprivation of physiological needs results in malnutrition, fatigue, loss of energy, obsession with sex, and so on. Threats to one's safety lead to fear, insecurity, and dread. When love needs go unfulfilled, a person becomes defensive, overly aggressive, or socially timid. Lack of esteem results in the illnesses of self-doubt, self-depreciation, and lack of confidence. Deprivation of self-actualization needs also leads to pathology, or more accurately, metapathology. Maslow defined metapathology as the absence of values, the lack of fulfillment, and the loss of meaning in life. Instinctoid nature of needs. Maslow hypothesizes that some human needs are innately determined even though they can be modified by learning. He called these needs instinctoid needs. Sex, for example, is a basic physiological need, but the manner in which it is expressed depends on learning. For most people, then, sex is an instinctoid need. One criterion for separating instinctoid needs from non-instinctoid needs is the level of pathology upon frustration. The thwarting of instinctoid needs produces pathology, whereas the frustration of non-instinctoid needs does not. For example, when people are denied sufficient love, they become sick and are blocked from achieving psychological health. Likewise, when people are frustrated in satisfying their physiological, safety, esteem, and self-actualization needs, they become sick. Therefore, these needs are instinctoid. On the other hand, the need to comb one's hair or to speak one's native tongue is learned, and the frustration of these needs does not ordinarily produce illness. If one would become psychologically ill as the result of not being able to comb one's hair or to speak one's native language, then the frustrated need is actually a basic instinctoid need, perhaps love and belongingness or possibly esteem. A second criterion for distinguishing between instinctoid and non-instinctoid needs is that instinctoid needs are persistent and their satisfaction leads to psychological health. Non-instinctoid needs, in contrast, are usually temporary and their satisfaction is not a prerequisite for health. A third distinction is that instinctoid needs are species-specific. Therefore, animal instincts cannot be used as a model for studying human motivation. Only humans can be motivated by esteem and self-actualization. Fourth, though difficult to change, instinctoid needs can be molded, inhibited, or altered by environmental influences. Because many instinctoid needs, love, are weaker than cultural forces, aggression in the form of crime or war, Maslow insisted that society should protect the weak, subtle, and tender instinctoid needs if they are not to be overwhelmed by the tougher, more powerful culture. Stated another way, even though instinctoid needs are basic and unlearned, they can be changed and even destroyed by the more powerful forces of civilization. Hence, a healthy society should seek ways in which its members can receive satisfaction not only for physiological and safety needs but for love, esteem, and self-actualization needs as well. Comparison of higher and lower needs. Important similarities and differences exist between higher-level needs, love, esteem, and self-actualization, and lower-level needs, physiological and safety. Higher needs are similar to lower ones in that they are instinctoid. Maslow insisted that love, esteem, and self-actualization are just as biological as thirst, sex, and hunger. Differences between higher needs and lower ones are those of degree and not of kind. First, higher-level needs are later on the phylogenetic or evolutionary scale. For instance, only humans, a relatively recent species, have the need for self-actualization. Also, higher needs appear later during the course of individual development. Lower level needs must be cared for in infants and children before higher level needs become operative. Second, higher level needs produce more happiness and more peak experiences, although satisfaction of lower level needs may produce a degree of pleasure. Hedonistic pleasure, however, is usually temporary and not comparable to the quality of happiness produced by the satisfaction of higher needs. Also, the satisfaction of higher level needs is more subjectively desirable to those people who have experienced both higher and lower level needs. In other words, a person who has reached the level of self-actualization would have no motivation to return to a lower stage of development.